Good evening, all. Due to some competing priorities the last couple of days and a recent rewatch of the video causing me to realize that it really wasn't very good, this week's video is a re-recording and slight updating of the first video on the channel, the 5-minute guide to the Audi R8. The Audi R8 Le Mans prototype was one of the most successful prototype sports cars of all time, and the racer that kicked off Audi's decade-and-a-half dominance of the top echelon of global endurance racing. It reigned supreme for 6 seasons before the sport's governing bodies finally regulated it into obsolescence, and Audi debuted their replacement, the R10 TDI. The R8 was not, however, Audi's first attempt at an entry into the burgeoning LMP classes in the late 1990s. It was born directly from one of the two 1999 programs intended to explore different development paths within the contemporaneous rule set. The R8R and R8C took divergent aerodynamic paths while sharing the majority of their drivetrain components, centered around a 600 horsepower, 3.6-liter twin-turbo V8. The R8R had a longer and more involved development period, and as such was the more robust and balanced of the two vehicles, despite the R8C's superior top speed and, although it's personal opinion, superior aesthetics. The R8C could achieve about 350 kilometers an hour versus the 335 kilometers an hour attained by the R8R. The 1999 season revealed pace issues for both cars, but the R8Rs demonstrated a reliability for which Audi's prototypes would become well known, outlasting most of their competitors at Le Mans to finish 3rd and 4th overall despite qualifying in 9th and 11th. The R8Cs, like several of the other prototypes of the era, developed aerodynamic peccadillos, shall we say, at high speed, and while they did not find themselves in need of VFR clearance to complete the race like their competitors from Mercedes and BMW, an unintended pressure differential underneath the engine cover caused the covers to part company in search of, quite literally in some cases, greener pastures. The R8R was chosen for further development, and the 2000 season saw the debut of the new R8 LMP, intended to compete in both the European and American Le Mans Series championships. Powered by an improved version of the 3.6-liter V8 from the R8R and C that featured the now standard fuel-stratified injection technology, it sent its power to the rear wheels through a 6-speed sequential gearbox, which obviated the need for a clutch pedal. However, while the engine was highly regarded for its reliability and power, the truly brilliant innovation that ensured the R8's long-held position at the top of the podium for 6 seasons was an unprecedented level of modularity. There is no more strenuous test of a vehicle's reliability than 6, 8, 12, or 24 hours of, in the words of Richard Hammond,
the ultimate crucible of excellence, motorsport. For anything on 4 wheels, this is the white heat of the anvil of the spearhead of evolution. If you want to improve the breed, you go motorsport. Second is the first of the losers. You have to win, etc., etc.
And in acknowledgement of this, the R8 was designed to minimize time spent in the pits repairing or replacing broken parts. The most notable instance of this came when Yost Racing was able to change an entire rear transaxle during the 2000 Le Mans race in less than 4 minutes, a job that previously would take several hours. In fact, it was so notable and so nice that they did it twice in the race, replacing transaxles on both of their cars in the early morning hours. Despite rule changes eliminating the more significant opportunities to take advantage of this modularity, it did not fully eliminate it, and the philosophy that inspired the design proliferated across the professional paddock, further increasing the intense competition that has become de rigueur in the top levels of racing in the last 20 years. In its first outing, the 12 Hours of Sebring, Audi took first and second position, besting the previous year's victors, BMW, setting a new distance record for that track layout, and kicking off the first of 8 straight victories for Audi at the Florida track. Admittedly, BMW was slightly hobbled by a necessitated change to their spoiler layout, but that's as may be. The R8 would go on to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans that year, and in subsequent years, until its replacement debuted in 2006, with the sole exception coming in 2003 when a duo of Bentley Speed 8s, with an engine, transmission, and chassis strongly derived from the old R8C and run by Team Yost personnel and drivers, led almost the entire race, taking first and second places at Circuit de la Sarthe. The R8 saw successes with privateer teams as well, including podium finishes and wins for the ADT champion racing teams in 2003, 4, and 5 at Le Mans and in the ALMS. The ACO continued to place increasing restrictions on the R8 in an effort to break its dominance, and by 2005, smaller air restrictors had cost around 90 horsepower from its original spec, and added ballast further harmed its overall performance. But, nevertheless, the maturity of the design helped it to win one final victory at Le Sarthe. Coincidentally, Tom Kristensen's 6th consecutive win and 7th overall, breaking Jackie Ickx's record. By the time it was replaced by the R10, it had racked up 63 wins from 79 race starts, while taking pole position 47 times, a sterling win-start record of 80%. Several of the 16 R8s constructed are now in private hands and occasionally campaign at historic racing events in both the US and Europe, including at Sebring, Road Atlanta, Laguna Seca, and the Le Mans Classic. Photos from this video come from both Sebring Historics races and from the 2023 Le Mans Classic. And for this week's call to action, not featuring the 3 sacred words of YouTube,
like, comment, subscribe.
And that week being the week of September the 11th, not mid-February when I originally posted this, because I wasn't doing calls to action at that point. Given that I'm doing this video, re-recording and reworking as a result of taking on a few too many other commitments at the same time, it seems like an appropriate moment to recall the importance of time management and remind all of you, dear listeners, that sometimes there is virtue in doing less if those things can indeed be done better. Food for thought. Anyway, hope this was a more palatable 5 or 6 minutes than the original version of the video. Let me know what car you'd like to see covered next, and have a good evening.